Um, yeah, the night before Tanya and I got married, when God spoke to me about as clear as he ever has, we went to eat and I sat there with her and I was amazed at how much he loves us because of what he did that
Hmm.
night. And I sat there and cried in the restaurant. I,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I was just sitting there like, his love for us is so deep, we can't even touch it. And yet we know enough of it that it makes me cry in the middle of a restaurant the night before I'm getting married. So just, it was amazing. So that it's a struggle because I want to write our book, but I have another book I've already started writing too, called The Parables of Marriage, where I take Jesus's parables and convert them to marriage messages. I'm going to try to make that
Oh,
more of a fun book, more of a, maybe throw some more humor in that one more than ever.
right.
He talked about the parable of the weeds, and I know sometimes people want to take the weeds and wrap it around their spouse's neck, but I'm not condoning that. That's not a good thing. I'm gonna throw some humor in there more than normal. But then I have
Uh-huh.
our book. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it the cane. I think that makes you want to know what's in it. Like the cane, what cane?
Yeah.
So anyway, I have both of those books underway. I just don't know which one I want to attack first. The parable would probably be the faster one. So I don't
Well,
know. We'll see.
you might work on a little bit at a time in each book. Who
Yeah,
knows?
thought about that too. That's how I've got two underway. So yeah,
True,
we'll
true.
see. But so okay, so as far as all of that's concerned, out the door. What's up with you guys? How has your week been?
Kind of peculiar with all this smoky stuff going on. It's been weird.
Smoky
It's
stuff?
some
Yeah,
interesting
Canada's on
challenges.
fire.
What's on fire?
Canada.
Canada.
Really?
Right now, I think as of yesterday, there was 49 new wildfires that weren't tamed yet. And at that point, still on fire was an average of 1.9 million acres.
Good golly.
Yeah,
And it's
which
the
didn't
first
break out in the
time.
news. Go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, babe. I was just gonna say it's the first time that it's really affected like the East Coast and the northern states. Like we can't go outside right now for long periods of time because there's so much smoke in the air
Oh
still here.
gosh.
The, the
400
toxicity is
miles.
so high that
Yeah,
it's
Wow.
400
unsafe.
miles from the fire that it's unsafe for us. Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy.
I was going to tell you that, um, yeah, 1.9 million acres, yes, as of yesterday, that was still burning. And they didn't put it in the news until about 4 days ago. And that's when the smoke was clearly visible in New York State, which New York's getting the worst of it because it's right in Ontario and Kingston was the bulk of it to start.
Hmm.
So that's right north of us. I mean, we can make it there in 2.5 hours, 3 hours to the Thousand Islands. Thousand Islands was the visibility was almost zero. It was like in the scale of like 8.
Hmm.
And what was I going to tell you about? Oh, the toxicity level they were saying was equivalent to smoking like 10 cigarettes a day. That's
It's
how toxic it was. And we had two drivers yesterday. One of them had um, an asthma attack, and the other one had from COVID went in the hospital last year with the first outbreak and almost didn't make it and ended up with two pulmonary embolisms in his lungs.
goodness.
And yesterday he was driving and his whole face went numb.
Oh,
And he's in the hospital right now, still from yesterday.
good grief. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. I
And
know
then
it.
I
So
had a headache. I had a immense headache for the last 2 days, and it felt like I had like a 50-pound weight on my chest. It's
yeah,
weird.
Nani and I and the kid, like all the after school activities are canceled. The kids can't go outside at school. They're having parents drive their kids so they're not on the bus for long periods of time. It's like crazy out here, John.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
But
we're all getting a cough. I'm like, oh man, not good.
I'm gonna have to put you on hold for 1 second. I gotta call my dispatch. I
Okay.
got up here and the trailer doesn't have any registration, any identification cards, no nothing in it.
Of course that happens to you, honey.
Always, always.
Oh my
I don't know
goodness.
I don't know how a person takes a truck and a trailer and doesn't have registration to it.
Yeah,
It makes zero sense, but that's human error for you.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to take back what I told Tanya yesterday, because I said it's too bad that Vinny and Lonnie and Dave don't all live right in our neighborhood. We get kicked out of the city, but it'd be fun. And now he comes in here giving me a hard time. I'm taking that back. I'm like, Lonnie, you stay in New York.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Ooh, I just looked up and there's a giant spider crawling right above my head on the ceiling. I swear to goodness, if that thing comes down here, you just stay right where you are.
You'll be a neighbor of his coworker.
I will. Oh my gosh, it's getting closer too. Get out here.
Yeah. So anything else this week other than the craziness of the Canada thing? This is the beauty of not paying attention to news anymore. I don't know anything.
To be honest, I love not paying attention to the news. The news was making me extremely like worried and anxious, and just even to the point of depression here and there. Right after COVID, I got kind of obsessed with watching the news for a while.
Yeah.
And now I've just been like, I only paid attention because I was like walking the dogs. I'm like, God, the entire sky is yellow. What is going on?
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
scared that there was like a nuke plant situation, because Lonnie, where he works is it's called he works for Penske Logistics out of Novelis, which is actually a nuclear plant. So we're only like 30 miles, 20 something miles from the nuke plant, you know? So I was like super nervous, like, oh my gosh, you know? So that's why we turned on the news and then found out, oh no, there's just, wildfires in Quebec, just burning and burning and burning, and they can't get it under control. And
well, Dave he's got his conspiracies going on, because I see him post on occasion about
my mom's that way too. Go ahead though. Sorry.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, and now the banks, and now the wildfires, and now the train derailments, and this and that. And I'm like, there might be substance to it. I don't know, but I don't pay attention. I know God's got me. The more I'm distracted with everything else, the less focused I am. And so
I hear that. I hear that. And as a matter of fact, I do feel the deeper I dive into my faith, I'll say it again, I feel like a more of a sense of peace. God has got me.
Yeah.
I just feel peaceful. I just feel like it's okay. Even though it's nothing is really okay around us. Like literally my children's air is toxic at the moment. I'm just like,
yeah,
it's okay. God's got us,
Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy that God can give you such a sense of peace.
Yep.
In such tumultuous times. It really is.
Yep. I mean, you think about COVID, when that all started, that was 2020 in March. How many people lost their jobs? You couldn't go to work. You couldn't do this. And the government's throwing out billions of dollars in unemployment and all of this. We never lost our jobs. I'm still blind, got my disability. Tanya was my caregiver through the government. And I told her, I said, how blessed are we?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We're not losing a penny. We have nothing to worry about. Not only that, we can stay at home and make the money and not put ourselves in danger. So
what a blessing, really.
Exactly. And of course, now they're talking about, I'm going to pause this. We're not really doing any session stuff. Pause. All right. Take off, Jamie.
First of all, let me update you a little bit that Tristan is actually going to be moving into Misty's bedroom, and she officially does not live here anymore.
Yay!
Yes. So
yay! Good for you guys.
Yeah. So we're putting her stuff in, the rest of her stuff until they get their official apartment in the mudroom, and just storing it for her. And Tristan's going to take her room. And we've already had conversation with Hayden, so he understands, like, mom is officially not here, living here anymore. And, I think I was a little concerned about how that was going to affect him, because it is kind of sad for him. He's just like, man, so he did ask a really good question yesterday. And that was actually, it was ironic that he asked me, because it was already kind of on my mind. And I had mentioned it to Lonnie last night, and I didn't even get to tell Lonnie yet that he asked me this, but he was curious about what if it doesn't work out with this guy yet, James? Are you guys going to let my mom come back? And I had already kind of talked to Lonnie about that and had been concerned about the same thing. And Lonnie was kind of in the mindset of, we've done all the things that we said we would do for you. And it's your time now to kind of work it out on your own. And if she ever really, really needed a place to stay, I think that we would be open to it. But right off the bat, we would probably be like, you need to try to figure it out on your own for a while, you
Yeah.
know? And I mean, what do you think? Do you think that would be the right approach?
This woman's in her late 30s.
Yes.
She's beyond the point of needing to have places to stay.
Right.
Because she's irresponsible or just unwilling or a moocher or whatever. I have compassion for her. I get the whole scenario behind it, but I'm more hardball about this stuff because I used to not be. And I have learned a lot that if she were to show a lot of diligence in trying to improve her life and was doing everything she could and was being responsible, I would say, yeah, if you knew, she'd be like, look,
Hold on
guys.
just a sec, John. Lonnie's calling me.
Okay.
I think he might be trying to log in and can't figure it out. Hang on a second.
Oh my goodness. Hilarious.
Oh,
You showed up, your wife disappeared.
did she? Wow.
Let me get her in here.
So yeah, I tell you what, John, sometimes I try so hard, but intelligence in some people just eludes me.
Oh man. Well, I'm wound up today. Jamie, did you make it back in?
Yep.
Okay. So Lonnie, we were just yapping, or let me rephrase that. I was just yapping for the most of the time you were gone.
Okay.
Jamie basically said, that's enough. Let's start the session. And so she said that Misty's officially out. I said, yay. But she was asking my opinion on if something doesn't work out with this man, what is my opinion on letting her come back? And there's
Can
a
I
point.
guess?
Huh?
Can I guess what your opinion was?
You go right ahead.
Maybe it's the same exact thing I said, because you're like my twin brother with this stuff.
Yeah.
I said, if she's able to do it now, she's able to do it if she don't have her man.
That's
So, no.
similar. That's similar what I was saying. My response is, if she were a diligent, persistent, responsible, look, I don't want to be in your all's house. I want my own place. I need 30 days because I've got to find a place. And you knew that you could trust her. I don't have a problem helping people like that. What I do have an issue with is people who continue to use and abuse and kind of work the system.
Yep.
I'd
Take
be like,
advantage.
no, you need to pretty much find something on your own because you've done it before. So I know you can do it. So it's not like you need us.
Yeah.
And that's a hard place to be because you don't want to send somebody out in the wilderness, but sometimes that's the only way people learn is in the wilderness.
Right.
You give her too much comfort zone. Is she going to learn? Are you enabling her or are you helping her? Huge difference. Which one is it?
Right.
And that's where it's a very tricky answer. My instinct is, I think on the surface, I would just have to know all the details. I'd be hesitant, but I'd also be hesitant to not to. So I guess what I'm really saying is I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Well, we're not like twins in this situation, but.
Well, because you think about it, if I knew, okay, if I could say, all right, Misty, look, you have 30 days, no excuses. At 30 days, you are out of here. I lean more to not letting her come back for, well, the more I think about it, the stronger I go to not letting her. And the reason is she's already caused all kinds of trouble. She's already used all kinds of excuses. And unless she changes her mindset, it's just going to be wash, rinse, and repeat. And there's a point where boundaries have to go up and you guys got
Right.
to protect your home. And the answer
Mhm.
now is, well, we don't have any room for you.
Right.
Your room's gone. Was Tristan in Hayden's room?
No, our house, actually, we have 4 bedrooms in this part of the house, and then the other house, part of the house has 2 bedrooms where Bobby lives, which is like an in-law suite on the back of the house. So everybody has their own rooms.
Okay, so why did Tristan go to her room? Just a bigger room or something?
Yeah, it's bigger.
Huh?
He's so excited. It's way bigger. Yeah, it's way
Okay.
bigger. We
Okay.
gave her the room in the house when she moved in, just to, give her space and let her be right across the hall from Hayden, and just thought that might cultivate, little area. But, you know,
Well, I'm inclined to say no. And the reason, like I said, sometimes I brainstorm by just talking. And then as I talk, you know how it is. When you brainstorm, things come to you. She didn't use her time with you guys wisely at all. From what I understand, she didn't save money. She didn't get, she's just irresponsible. And all she would do probably is come back in there and mooch off of you again and cause issues and
Fall in
right.
love again and try to move that one in.
yeah, disrespect Lonnie.
How I
So
feel. Do think, obviously, if there was some dire situation, we wouldn't let her go without a
right.
dinner, or you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
whatever. Or if
Yeah.
it's winter and she's literally being like abused and kicked to the curb or something, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you gotta figure out what you're gonna do, and you
Well,
can't.
there's Vera House too. So
Okay.
Yeah, there is
Is that a
Vera House.
shelter?
Yeah, it
yeah,
is. It's like a women's
for
shelter
battered
for
women.
battered women.
Okay. So really there's no need for a late 30s young lady who's perfectly capable of making $1,000 a week to be mooching
Yeah.
off of you guys. No excuse.
Right.
So yeah, see, I've talked my way through it. Answer's no from me for the most part. Context is everything.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
agree with that. Context is everything, and Jamie knows. Misty only knows when it works to her advantage. I love my sister-in-law, and
Sure.
I definitely, am the type of person that I would help anybody out. But once you burn me and once you keep just rubbing it in and doing a cigarette mash on my head,
Yeah.
I can't live that way.
Yeah.
And it's not helping her, and it's degrading to me no matter how much I try to understand or to, make way, because it's Jamie's sister, but I do it for all of them all the time. I mean, for example, the truck right now, she finally got caught up last
Oh,
week after going rehashing and going back through it over and over and reminding her and so on, and waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally. So there's two things that need to be done. One, eventually when she has enough money, she needs to move. So yes, the truck would be convenient for her. Right now, I could use the truck to move a couple things in my yard. I asked her 2.5 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, could I use the truck? You could take my car. I'll make it easy for you. I'll drive to you, pick up the truck, leave the car, do it in when it's convenient for both of us, and then I will bring it back to you. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Don't hear nothing from her. Ask her again. She doesn't answer me back. So then I asked her 2 days ago. Her answer was, well, in combination with the fact that we came up with the idea of trading vehicles with her eventually. She'd take my car and I take the truck back. The car payment is cheaper, but there's more owed on it. So it would be paid longer, but it would reduce her payment to less than $100 a week.
mm-hmm.
So it would be easier for her. It's smaller. You know what I'm saying? Cheap, way cheaper on gas. It's the benefit is to her. And the minor benefit to me would be I would have a truck to use because a lot of times I need a truck. I haven't heard a response from her on it at all. I
Yeah.
asked her, broke the conversation by using that to borrow the truck for a couple days. And she was like, well, I was kind of thinking it's probably best that the truck stay with me for a while because I just helped somebody move stuff yesterday and it's just really convenient and handy having. And eventually I probably want to do it because that's a pretty attractive deal, being cheaper by the week and all. But right now, I think it's just best to stay with me. I said, okay, well, what about the fact that, or what about me borrowing it? And she was like, well, your days off are Friday and Saturday, right? And I said, yeah. I said, so I know you work Friday, so maybe I could pick it up Thursday night, bring it back to you Saturday afternoon. Well, that won't work for me either because I'm working Thursday, Friday, but I'll think about it and I'll let you know. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking all this that I do for you, I pay the insurance, I pay the bill when you don't have the money and everything. And it would be an inconvenience to you for you to let me use it for a day
Mhm.
to get some
Well,
things done. To me, those types of things make me feel like not that I do things for other people to get something back, but come
that's
on,
right. Yeah.
I'm buttering your bread 100%,
Yeah.
and you can't even. If it were me, I would definitely. If somebody asked me, even if it inconvenienced me, I'd be like, sure, go right ahead,
Well,
go right ahead. It's
yeah.
basically yours until I pay it off, anyways.
That's what I'm saying. The mentality there, obviously, she was a drug addict, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably had an effect on her mind as well. Has she?
Mhm.
I know I've asked you guys this prior, but I can't remember if I asked it like this. But has she experienced any trauma in the past,
Oh yeah.
like sexual trauma or something as a youngster or anything like that?
Yep.
Okay, that explains it. Um, that type of a thing takes years for your brain to catch up with your age, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to say that's not an insult, but the science, the way I understand it, shows that when you deal with something like that, your mentality and maturity level is either stopped or delayed or slowed at the time that it happens. So say she was 17 years old. Well, she's 38, 39 years old thinking like a 17-year-old.
Yep. We
And it,
talk about that often.
yeah, and that's,
Mm.
so remember, you're fighting against the spirit world right now, not flesh and blood. And so that's why it's important to have boundaries. And when you think about it, let's say I'm going to use the parent child relationship, and I'm going to give, even though I've been slammed by a particular female in this group that I will not name because I don't want to point out anybody, but there's a female within this group that has nailed me twice today. I'm going to give her kudos for saying, Tristan, I'm not making your lunch for you. You go make it. I'll show you how to do it, but then you're on your own and I want this mess cleaned up when you're finished. Well, you know what that
Uh-huh.
is?
Mm.
Here's what that is. That's loving your child. People think loving means doing everything for them, trying not to let them go through any inconveniences. That's not loving your child. That's weakening your child, and it's going to be harder for them in the long run. But
Right.
saying do it
Exactly.
yourself, it's harder because you're
In the
making
moment.
them in the moment. It is definitely harder, but the big picture is you're loving them by making them operate on their own, learning responsibility to the point when they fly the coop, they're prepared to live life. That's how you love them, by preparing them to leave. You can't prepare them to leave if you're doing everything for them. So that's the same principle when it comes to Misty. You love her by making her be responsible. That's how you love. Love isn't always this nice little give me a hug, you'll be okay, pat on the hiney and send them on their way. Sometimes training them tough is actually loving them.
Hmm.
Definitely.
So,
And
okay.
in those times when the Bible
I'm
was written, or the examples and the stories that are in them, times were more primitive,
Mm-hmm.
not as modern, and much more harder.
That's right.
And it was written that way back then.
That's right.
Not
That's
saying
right.
you need to beat the daylights out of your kids. I don't believe in that at all. However, tough love sometimes is extremely important, when they don't, especially when they don't learn from
Right.
past lessons, especially about the same stuff over and
Yep.
over and
Yep.
over and over and over. It's not, it's not helping.
Well, I'm thrilled to death. I'm hoping that there is a double blessing out of this to where you guys are starting to get a little more of your peace back in your own home, and Misty will grow up and start to mature and do life as an adult instead of with a kid mentality, because everything she does that you guys have told me about, and again, it's not a slam, it's likely the effects of trauma. It's called trauma response, to where your mind just doesn't think like an adult. And that's, if she was sexually assaulted at no fault of her own, then maybe the way she thinks now is really no fault of her own. So how do we get her out of it other than deep, psychotherapy is teaching her how to be responsible. And sometimes that means get out, pay your own bills, take care of your own responsibilities. And then that would kind of trigger something, I hope. So now, is there any, Jamie wanted to go over some Bible verses, I think, Lonnie, while you were gone, um, that I'm definitely open to, but
Okay.
we already know Misty's gone. There's nothing we can really do about the borrowing the truck thing, except let you vent a little bit, which I hope that helped. If there's anything else to say, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, I'm going to have Jamie pull out these verses she has questions about.
Oh, I'm good. Go ahead, James.
Okay.
Okay, so in regards to just, all of our everyday lives and stuff, I feel like we kind of covered a little bit just in talking about it, but
Okay.
I picked out Galatians 6:9,
Okay.
let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up.
Yeah.
I feel like I would love to talk about how do we do that without getting discouraged or discouraging others around us when they just make it hard for us to do that. Whether it be Misty or Hayden or my brother Bobby, you know, like continuing in this track of being more faithful, trying to be encouraging to them. And, I want to make sure that I don't ever deter anyone from finding their own faith or in God's time or anything like that. But I do find that it's harder as I grow to not like speak a little bit of the word when I see all these struggles that, if just looked at it in a different way, could be relieved so much more efficiently and easily if, Hayden was a little bit more faithful, or my brother was a little more faithful, or my sister had any faith at all, or,
Mhm.
just, or just even with me and Lonnie personally, um, I can definitely see that there's been a few times, maybe in the last month, that it has been hard for him to focus on the faith and easier to, be a little bit more quick to anger or a little bit more quick to feel bitter or just to kind of make sort of like observations about his life like, well, I guess I'm just starting to learn and understand that God didn't say I was going to be happy all the time while I'm married, you know, just so it's just all hard, right? And I just
Mhm.
don't know, do we just pray on it more? Do we just keep turning back to the Bible? I hope you're understanding what I'm throwing out here.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Well, if that's not a loaded question,
I know. I know. That's how I work, isn't it, Lon?
that's right. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to respond with a question to answer your question. Okay. What have we discussed about marriage and there are like two main purposes from marriage? And can you guys tell me the two, or at least come up with one?
The main purposes of marriage?
Uh huh.
Well, we are to honor each other among all, right? And love each other like God loves, like he's supposed to love me, like God love, or like Jesus
Okay.
loved the church, and
So
I'm
it's
supposed to,
okay.
you know,
So that's one purpose. And what's the other one?
so that we're not alone. We're not good alone.
Yes. And if you're not good alone and you have weaknesses because of that, how do you see how
It's to
can I?
deter sin.
Okay, you
It's
can hold
to
each other
it's to
accountable.
deter temptation and sin, and be able to hold each other accountable and to help one another.
Okay, so growth, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, so let's take that into consideration. Number one priority is to show Jesus through our marriages. Number two is for our own personal growth. There's a reason they call growing painful, growing pains. Sometimes growing does not make you happy, Jamie, and you just touched on that. Okay.
Okay.
So when you're growing and it's called growing pains, don't grow weary. Continue to work on your growth because in due season, you're going to reap the harvest. What kind of a harvest? Woo, I've got chills. I'm about to have some church up in here. How'd you like that black language, Lonnie?
Loved it.
Did you like it? I am as white as they come.
I liked it.
You liked it? Yeah.
Yeah.
What harvest have you guys seen from your marriage growth?
We definitely are more connected. Our children are, well, at least Tristan is definitely growing in his faith, and we're leading by a good example in that way. And
Okay. Was
yeah,
it easy getting to where you are now?
no,
No. Are you seeing a harvest?
yes,
All right. There's one example. Your growth, which is not easy. Tristan seeing Jesus more than he ever has. Now you're seeing what that verse is talking about in a nutshell. You guys didn't grow weary. Lonnie, like a man, listened to what I had to say, decided on his own, I'm going to grow. And in turn, he's got his wife running right along his side. You guys have become more unified. You've had to work through some crap, still working through some crap. That's why the Bible says don't grow weary. Why would it say don't grow weary if there's not a chance that you're going to tire out?
mm,
But yet, here you guys are, week after week after week after week, coming in here for accountability. You could grow weary and say, I'm not meeting with that sucker on Thursday. He wears me out. But you're doing it as an accountability thing. So we can
yes,
rehash and hash and try to figure this out. And how do we handle this? 6 months ago, 7 months ago in November, think about that day that we
I
first
know.
met. Okay. Think about that first day. Think about today. What does your life look like now versus then?
What do you think, Len?
I think it's a lot better. And we are a lot closer to our faith, and we are working together better. I think, to piggyback off of what you said, Jamie, is that a lot of those things that you were speaking about was the language that I use when I talk to you, because I'm not really sure any other kind of way to say it. I mean, we talk about biblical verses, we talk about things that we have learned through John and Tanya. And at times when we're going through things and we're not working together, and I'm trying to get it back on track and I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm saying, there's no other language I can use other than a way to put it to where we're not going any further on the realm of fighting or battling against each other. I just say, well, God never said that I would always be happy in marriage. So I guess this is one that I have to just pray about. I have to just find another avenue, because I'm coming into a brick wall here, or I'm treading into your feelings versus your understanding at the moment. So I use those terms or say those things because it's not that I'm discouraged. It's the fact that I am telling myself and you at the same time that this isn't worth fighting over. This is more one of those things that we need to, if we can't solve it right now together, I have to go off separately and figure out my next approach and then come back to you from God with what I've figured out or what I've learned. That's where I'm coming from when I say those things and do those things or talk that way. It's to try to prevent how I've been in the past. So that's,
So
just
that's
so you know.
that's actually what that verse is talking about too. Lonnie's not growing weary. He's still putting forth an effort to not return to his old ways. He's crucifying the flesh in those moments, if I heard him right.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
We're supposed to work together. So if
Yeah.
it's not able to be done right now, there's no sense in going any further in a negative way.
And can that be draining?
Yes, it can
Don't-
be very,
Okay.
it
So
can be, but we don't have to let it.
That's right. So don't grow weary. Find a way
Right.
that it's not so draining. See, there's so many aspects of this. And the thing is, I think what that verse really is trying to tell us is that growing weary is where we get focused. Do not grow weary. I'm so tired. I think what it's really saying is keep your eyes on the prize. You're going to get
In
tired.
those moments.
Yeah, you're going to get tired. You're going to have mental exhaustion. Jesus flat out said, in this world, you will have many troubles. It's not like this is odd. But that is the beauty of marriage, because two are better than one. When you're on the same page and Lonnie falls down, Jamie can help him up. When Jamie's cold, Lonnie can snuggle up and get her warm again. The beauty of two are better than one in Ecclesiastes. I think I had you guys read that. That's the beauty of marriage when you're unified. It's even more draining when you're not unified and you're dealing with struggles. That's why I so much stress the unity factor. Partnership, unity, teamwork. Remember? Put partnership, unity, teamwork. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to make me a Marital Monkey t-shirt that says that and sell them. Partner, unity, and teamwork. But anyway, so I think what it's really saying is keep your eyes on the prize. Right now it's hard. It's going to be hard. But don't grow weary in doing the right things, because you will reap your rewards. And here's the thing that I can tell you. I always like to look at the opposite side of things. What if you do grow weary and just quit? You're still going to reap some type of a consequence.
Sure.
Right? If Lonnie doesn't back down and say, look, this isn't worth arguing over, and he just jumps in due to the flesh and he loses control, there's a consequence. He's going to reap something from that. It could be harsh words that hurts Jamie for months and months and months. It could him losing confidence in himself and his walk. Who knows? But I'm proud of Lonnie for still working and crucifying the flesh. That's what it takes to grow in your faith. So that it's a great question, Jamie, but you can look at all kinds of scenarios. Speaking of wife, there she is. You can look at all kinds of scenarios and apply that verse. What's the big picture? And that's where Lonnie comes in as the leader. What's the big picture? And not growing weary, because in due time you will reap a harvest. Harvest is what you want. You've got the most beautiful example right in front of you in Tristan. If that doesn't encourage you to not grow weary, I don't think there's anything that will. Your marriage is way better. You guys just said that. Tristan's growing in his faith because of what you guys are doing. See, God's blessings flows downward, right? Tristan's under you guys. So when you guys are operating in the scriptural boundaries and guidelines, that blessing keeps flowing downward. And you know what? Hayden's getting it too. It might not be visible, but we don't know what's going on inside that young man. We don't know what God's doing to him. Maybe he's doing the stuff that he's doing and the conviction's so strong, and that might be why he's so defensive.
Yeah, I am, like, I wouldn't say discouraged, but I'm worried about Hayden and and Lonnie's relationship, and just like how Hayden, I mean, he's happy. He's got a girlfriend. He's very happy with her. He's doing okay in school. He's going to his counseling every week. He's plugging along, but I don't see a big improvement. And I'm sure that Lonnie would agree. It's just what it is right now, that their relationship doesn't really seem to be getting much better at the moment.
Okay. Well, what we can say is this, and this is my instinctive response. He's 14. He has no desire at 14 to be close with an adult, more than likely.
Right.
So that's not something I would be concerned about, because you've heard the saying, your kids will get it eventually. Listen, I was in a somewhat similar scenario, not with my kids being rebellious against me or anything like that, but I had full custody of my kids. I'm the responsible one. I'm the one that's responsible for raising them, getting them to church, disciplining them, I had full custody. But their mom got to be their friend instead of their parent. And that's the way she's always been. Kids always follow the path of least resistance. So that was a battle for me. And I knew at some point they would get it. But in their teenage years, even though we were a close family, they still had the desires to have boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. It wasn't until about 2 years ago, when my daughter was 22, that she said, "Dad, you did a good job."
That's nice.
Because she asked questions about when their mom would badmouth me or my late wife. And we would not put the kids in the middle. We'd go to the bedroom at night and we'd vent for 3 hours out of just anger and to get it off our chests, because we refused to include the kids. And we were taking hits at the time because she was feeding them a bunch of crap that simply wasn't true, but just to make us look bad and undermining everything we did. And we stayed back and let God handle it. And you know what? It worked out okay. I wouldn't get overly concerned about Hayden being 14 years old in this atmosphere, the environment that he's been around his whole life with his mom and her irresponsibility. The fact that he's doing okay in school, he seems happy with the girlfriend. I'd be praising God for that and asking for God to cultivate that type of thing into life in general. And maybe, because you know what? You never know what God's up to.
That's true.
The best thing you can do right now is, quote unquote, parents, just pray for that young man. Be there for him. I think Lonnie has adjusted his responses in a way that at some point Hayden very well might walk up to Lonnie and say, "Can I talk to you?" We don't know, but don't shut that door. So I get the concern, but I wouldn't get worked up about it right now.
Okay.
Was that the answer you were looking for? Or the response or anything? Did I hit anything?
Yeah, I think so. That
Okay.
wasn't, I wasn't looking for anything specific, so.
Okay.
I think, if I can say something, I think Jamie is worried about my relationship with Hayden, because there are times when we definitely have a hard time communicating. We either don't communicate or we have a hard time communicating, because it's not because he's a teen, but he has always been extremely rebellious and doesn't want to hear anything said to him that isn't a maybe, possibly, anything that he can work with. If it's not something he can work with or write off, or just walk away from, or make an excuse about, and just go on with life like nothing ever happened, he has a hard time with it. And it's not that I intentionally you know, try to provoke him or poke him. I just am literally trying to get him to use his own brain and think and start doing things for himself where it's not last minute we're at fault or we need to do something, and his issue becomes our emergency right now when he's had all the time in the world, or he's had all the explanation and the had it paved the way for him, you know. And then that's where he finds himself in positions where he makes decisions on his own based on his emergency right now, and that causes him to get in trouble. You know, I mean, some of the easiest things. You have a key, I give you a lanyard. I've made him several keys for him to get in. I told him the other day, listen, if you come home from school and you don't have your key, and I've given you one umpteen times, then you're going to have to sit on the porch and wait for us to get home. There is
Okay.
no going to the garage and getting a tool and breaking the build code doors open and then going up through the basement and then leaving all that open and all the tools out in the rain to rust, or, you know, leaving the doors unlocked so that we're unsafe so that, you know, when you come home tomorrow, you'll have a way in the house. That's a natural consequence. You don't have your key, for the umpteenth time at your age, you sit out on the porch and wait.
Yeah.
And then that causes him to make excuses, argue with me, talk to me with disrespect, do all those kinds of things. And when I react and just basically say, Hayden, I've already spoken. That is it. That's what I said. Well, I don't think that should be. Then he gets disrespectful. And then I tell him, Hayden, that's enough. I'm not going for it. You know, and I escalate enough for him to hear that I am not discussing this anymore. The conversation is over with. And I think that agitates Jamie to hear those types of things, because for she would rather be like, well, you know, I'd rather he was able to get in the house. So therefore, if he leaves the door unlocked, how big of a deal is that? Or, you know, whatever. So,
Then my question would be, what did you teach him by doing it like that?
right. And that's where I'm at. And she's more at like, that doesn't do anything for our relationship. It doesn't make it any better for me to
Yeah.
be tough love like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know, and that's just one example, but you know, I want my wife to know that there's no way that Hayden, just like we were talking about Misty, there's no way that Hayden it's never going to click if we allow him to go through life at this young age exactly the way he wants to, without and then put a mattress there for when he falls so that it doesn't, you know, cause a
Yep.
bruise.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to get a bruise,
Well,
you know.
my thing is he has this propensity to just automatically respond with disrespect. That's all he knows. So
Yeah,
that's something, Lonnie, I would even meet with you one-on-one at some point to discuss some of these conversations to figure out maybe a better way to respond to him. Like for me, like this is me. And it always worked for me, but I've not had a kid in this scenario. So I understand there's a difference in what we're dealing with here. But anybody who pops off at me with disrespect that's younger, in a scenario that I'm raising or a grandchild, or I automatically go, no, zip it. That has been my reaction for most of those scenarios. And
that's exactly what I do. I go,
and if
Hayden,
he-
nope, that's it. That's enough.
Well, if he keeps on going, say, I've spoken, turn around, you turn out of there. Let him talk all he wants. Just walk on out. It's going to make him madder. You know why? He lost control.
Right. And that's exactly what he does. He gets mad and then he says some comments that are just off the freaking wall.
Yep.
And that's where I feel like my wife, especially since she is the one that they accept for discipline and so on and so forth, that's where it should be automatic. Hayden, you do not talk to your uncle that way. I do that for her. If he gets that way with her, I say, excuse me, sir, I don't have nothing to do with this conversation. However, I would appreciate it if you didn't disrespect my wife that way. You talk to her with respect.
Yeah.
And I do it every single time. That's what I need my wife to be like,
All right,
right
Jamie,
there.
what do you say?
I got a lot to say. That's pretty simple. I can certainly do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
First and foremost. You're
Okay.
welcome.
I love this. See, to me, I love that stuff. There was respect. There was, okay, I can help you out there. Okay. Now the only thing
Yeah.
left is the follow-up and the action to follow the words. That's it. All right, Jamie, go ahead. I just wanted to give you guys kudos really quick. All right, Jamie.
So, Hayden sees a psychiatrist and a psychologist and takes medication now for ADHD.
Okay.
Kristen actually takes the same medication. They both, and they see completely different psychiatrists. They went through the whole process. And now, actually, my doctor is going to be doing some diagnostics for me. We actually think I probably have ADHD. So there's a whole, background to some of the ways. Lonnie even said, like, when I was explaining to him as I learned more about myself and what that looks like for me, he's like, wow, I wish I would have known that this was the cause of what you do, because maybe I would have reacted a little bit softer, or a little bit more, understanding, and a little differently. I do think that it's very important that we teach Hayden the coping skills, and Tristan too, in ways. And we're working on that. It's just Tristan is more receptive. Hayden is not as receptive, or he says he is, but his is more severe, which is not surprising. His mother is bipolar depressive. She has ADHD herself. He came from two parents that have addictive personalities, a little bit of narcissism in there. There's so much that Hayden has been genetically dealt that is a
Correction,
difficulty
little
for him.
bit is an understatement.
Yeah, I was
A
going to
little
say.
bit. Yeah, a little bit is an
The
understatement for
narcissism.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
a
at an
little.
all-time high.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Hayden shows a lot of those similar traits, and it is a very difficult thing to navigate.
Yep.
And Lonnie, I would like to share with you, Tristan, the other day, he made an observation when you and Hayden were kind of in a little argument. And he told me in the car the next day, because you know how Trist gets in the car. My son is hilarious. Lonnie will sit there and be like, he's dying. He just can't wait to get out of the car right now, because Trist gets so deep and philosophical, tries to have all these deep, deep conversations. And he just drives Lonnie crazy sometimes with just like, because he just goes around and around, and he just has so many random thoughts in his mind, which is part of what he's going through, right? Like that's also part of it's, I don't want to say a symptom, but it's a characteristic of ADD and ADHD. So anyway, he said, I think Lonnie is one of the best men in the world. And he said, I love him so much. And I think he's amazing with kids and amazing with adults, but he really doesn't know how to talk to teenagers. And I thought that was like, And I literally said to him, and I was like, well, why do you feel that way, bud? I feel like he tries so hard to connect with you guys and come and talk to you guys in a way that he feels like he's treating you, with like a respect, like you're old enough, like he's trying to take your needs seriously. He's like, yeah, but I can tell that like he knows it's not appropriate maybe to like treat us like little kids, but we're not adults yet either. And he's trying to still show that like, hey, I'm in charge here. Or he doesn't understand, our sense of sarcasm isn't really meaning to come across as like super disrespectful. And I get that we need to be put in our place sometimes and stuff like that. But he's like, I feel like there just might be like a lack there of knowing how to approach us in a way where it's like, it seems organic. It just seems a little bit like he's uncomfortable or it's forced for him.
Well,
and I do think with Hayden, the ADHD part of his issues, quote unquote, the forgetting the keys. I literally just had a conversation with his psychiatrist this week about how frustrating it is that you can tell Hayden, and John, I'm telling you right now, there's been blowouts in our house about just something simple like running down the stairs because he's almost like died at the bottom of the stairs. And it's like the 17th time in one day that we've told him not to run down the stairs, you know? So like it is a frustration. It is a thing. And the doctor literally said, this is something that Hayden will struggle with late into adulthood, if not his whole life. And the things that he can do is set an alarm. I need to take my medicine in the morning. I need to walk the dogs as soon as I get home. He often forgets the dogs even exist. And he's so excited. He just comes right in the house and just does his own thing and just ignores them, you know, doesn't walk them, doesn't take care of them. He knows me and Lonnie work late. It's part of their responsibility. Just
Till
food
they
goes
poop,
right
and
out
then
of
he
his head.
walks over it and
Yep.
smells it forever.
Mhm.
I
And to
see
see
some of
that,
those things I
some of
find
that
to
stuff.
be an excuse not to cut
I-
you off, because he sees it there.
Yeah.
He smells it. He's looking right at it.
Oh,
It's
I'm
right
not talking
below
about
his
the
feet.
cleaning up. Yeah, I'm not talking about the cleaning up the poop that he can see on the floor. I'm just saying literally forgetting that he needs to walk the dogs. And he will sit here and cry in our room after him and Lonnie have gotten in a fight and been like, Aunt Jane, I don't mean to do these things and I don't know why I'm like this.
Does he
Now, we
only
can
try
sit
to go
here
on
all
memory
day.
only?
Right. He keeps trying to do it memory only. I tell him, put an alarm on your phone, buddy. Set it for
But that's
5:45 when the
that's the
bus.
thing. He's rebellious and will not do it. We have tried everything.
Right.
We've gotten him a calendar to remind him of certain days
Yes,
of the week that need
we
to be
have.
done. We have gotten him alarm clocks. Every single thing he says that there is, it doesn't work. But then, I mean, this kid is so technological and can do anything. If I have a problem with a phone, he comes right over and just does it. He won't even show me how to do it. But I went in his phone and found out that he literally went straight in there and turned certain things off so that it won't work. He had to have, because there's no way for it to be that way. The
Yeah,
phone
only
doesn't just
specific
do
alarms,
that.
like the volume will be
Yeah.
down only on that alarm, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just like, okay, how did that happen, bud? Like he
Right.
deliberately is like, oh, look, I said it, guys, but I don't want to hear that because I definitely am not going to be trying to remember that. And I
Correct.
get Lonnie's frustration so much with that, but my point still stands that where I feel discouraged, and I am talking about my feelings right now, the where I feel discouraged about us is just that tone has not changed. That like just feeling like there's no hope
Mhm.
has not changed. And I want it to change so much. And I know that Lonnie does too. I know he
Right.
does.
And I
And-
think the two of us approach hope in two different ways. I believe that you approach, and I could be wrong, but being with you as long as I have and knowing you as well as I do, you have hope in things just happening on their own. I have hope in cultivating, urging, teaching, pushing, striving.
forcing, and that doesn't work.
Not well, I wouldn't. It's taken as forcing, you know, like with Tristan's example, that I don't know how to communicate with them. It is difficult for me, and it is something that I find myself being literally what's the word for it? Awkward in understanding them, but it's because you don't understand them either. It's impossible for you to understand them. You're not in school with them. You don't speak the same lingo in the new age where I've heard you say, well, what does that mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? And what they do when you ask them what it means, they don't even bother to tell you. They look at each other and snicker like Beavis and Butthead, and then or look at you and go, exactly. And I'll say, well, what I don't get it. Yeah, you're right. Well, I still don't get it. No, you don't. And they don't want you to know, because they want to be able to say things and be a certain kind of way where they're being unique. You don't understand. You don't know. Just like in the Black community where they say it's a Black thing, you wouldn't understand. No, that's a cop out. You're acting a certain kind of way and you're being a certain kind of way, but you play it off by being like, you just don't understand. So I don't know how to approach them or understand them to have a conversation a lot of times when it's inappropriate to be that way on their part. If there's something I'm being serious about and I'm trying to teach them and they're joking around and looking at each other and snickering and not even paying attention to me, and I'm trying to get their attention, and what I'm saying to them, they don't have an inkling to care about right now, but they have to because of the circumstances, that's where we come into a language barrier and a conflict, right? Because they're doing it to avert the attention off of themselves.
Well, how do you respond?
Well, my response is usually speak to me with intelligence and have a conversation. Don't just blah, 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 speak in tongues and then look at each other and because right now I'm being serious. I need your attention. This is something that you need to know. And this is something you did and something that needs to stop because these are the end results. And then it's like they just literally are like, oh my God, he is so him. You know, so then instead of getting support, if Jamie is around at that time, she finds it to be humorous and will laugh with them and talk with them and act like, you know, it's just a teenage thing. It's just this, it's just that. Well, that's cool
In those
in
instances,
the concept when it's not an issue, when it's
Right.
not something that is a teaching moment. If it's just a regular old moment, I'm just as relaxed as anybody, and I'm just as interested to learn
Context.
how they are. But context is huge, and if you can tell I'm serious, and I'm well older than them. I'm almost 11 years older than you, Jamie, so I'm way off the spectrum. And instead of
Right.
helping me and saying this is what that means, no,
Honey,
you almost
every
join
okay.
in with them.
I'm gonna stop you right there and say a couple things that probably gonna upset you a little bit. One, I do think that you take your role as a parent and just their role model and everything very seriously, and it's so awesome and lovely. And I'm very, very grateful for you in that aspect. But the times that I do laugh is really because I genuinely feel that in that moment, we could be a lot lighter. It doesn't have to be so serious. Doesn't have, and when I do try to tell you this is what he meant or this is what he meant, you don't like that at all. You say they can talk for themselves, Jamie. I don't need, and you'll say it right in front of them. And
Right.
disrespect
When
me.
I asked a question and I would like them to respond to me, I don't need you speaking for them because they love when you do.
Okay,
As
let
soon
me
as
let
you
me
do,
interrupt.
they tune out.
Yeah, let
They
me
don't
interrupt you guys really
engage.
quick. I'm going to interrupt
Okay.
you because I don't want to miss
Okay.
this moment.
Okay.
This is what we've talked about in our first 2 or 3 sessions. When let's take this exact scenario that we're talking about. When's the last time this has happened?
Just the other day.
Okay. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm not going to pull things out of you. I'm just going to say it like this. Jamie, if you have an issue with what you just said, in front of the kids is not the place to do it. Because what happens, and I've talked about this, and I'm not trying to take Lonnie's side by any stretch, because you guys know, I mean, you've seen me talk to him just like I'm doing now. But what you did, if you took sides with the kids and kind of laughed and meddled with them a little bit, you just isolated your husband, which weakened his stance in front of Hayden and Tristan both, instead of taking it to the side and saying, Lonnie, I think you're taking this a little bit too serious, and discussing it outside of their peripheral. Because when you do it in front of them, now they've seen a crack and now they know how to work it even more so. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I'm going to be 100% honest right now.
Okay.
That I feel like I have made tremendous strides in respecting Lonnie in front of them when he's being serious about things like this.
Yeah.
And I don't feel, actually, I feel that the issue in this instance, it has been that Lonnie really this was the other thing that I was going to say a minute ago that I knew was probably going to be a little upsetting, honey. You are very much like wanting everyone to hear you out, but you cut everyone off when they are talking, or when you feel like you get what I'm saying, you literally look at me and say, I get it, Jamie. All right, stop. That's enough. And if I was to say that to you, you'd be like, how dare you, basically. I'm not done talking. And when I'm done talking, then I'm done talking. You don't tell me that the conversation is over. I don't feel like you allow me to help you with the accountability like you do for me. And I'm very, very open to it. There's been a couple times in the last few days that you were a lot better than I was expecting you to be. And we've been getting along great, and all that stuff has been fine. But I think that my whole point with this is not to pick on you in this aspect. It's literally to just say, I think that you've been a little bit on edge and just taking things a little bit too seriously, where I haven't laughed at you specifically with the kids. I'm laughing at what they're saying because we were having a conversation with them already, which I actually do. I don't care that they're sitting there. If I ask them what a word means and they're like, oh, you wouldn't understand or whatever, I will sit there and giggle with them because I don't care that they are feeling
I
like, oh,
know.
I got this little, club that I'm not a part of. I'm just happy to be part of their conversation. And a lot of times when we're in the car and Tristan is talking, I'm telling you, he picks up on the vibes that, like, while, you don't discourage me and Tristan talking, he knows that you've been let out a big sigh and get upset when you turn down the radio so he can talk to me, and roll your eyes so he can continue on with what he's saying and go into his little deep thing. And you sit there and you don't, say anything. And you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, and now I got to listen to them again. And I am actually literally in love with those moments because they're connecting with us and making memories, and they're going to grow up quicker than we can possibly imagine. That Tristan's going to be driving in 6 months. The time for us to be riding around with him in the same car where he's actually engaged. I bet you John can't tell you the last time he drove on a long ride with his daughter because she just wanted him to. Let's go for a ride, Dad. It's not going to last. It's not going to be forever.
Did you just call me old?
No, but
Okay,
your kids are grown,
I'm
right?
just checking. Yeah. No, and I get all of that. My only point is you guys have to be unified. Because if you're not, and anything like that happens, those kids will pick up on that. But the other stuff that you mentioned, Jamie, definite, I get it. Something that we can all talk about, like when we have more time. Because I do agree with the, let me ask Lonnie, is what she said accurate, that you kind of huff and puff and roll your eyes a little bit and turn on the radio and,
Yeah, because yes, I do.
okay, all
Yes, I
right,
do. And
okay.
it's because I don't know. I don't have a reason, because my reason is it's not going to be feasible to Jamie at all.
Well, what's your reason? Tell me.
The reason is because every time we get in the car, his conversations that he has, even though, yes, I encourage having conversation, but a lot of times the conversation is about, for me, it sounds selfish, but it's every single time we're in the car. And it's mentally draining to me to hear an encyclopedia open up and explain things that is like, I don't, you'd have to be there in the moment and hear exactly how he speaks and the things that he says. And you can't really have a conversation with him about it or ask him anything to understand it more, because it just doesn't flow like that. It
What?
doesn't.
Okay, well, what if
It's about, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, it's just about certain things that are like, I don't mind I love trivia and, having, like, what most people say, like a mind full of like useless knowledge, or or like just random things. But the way he goes about it, it's almost like a mind warp. It's like bending your brain to hear what he's saying, because a lot of times it's about stuff that, you know, like the other day we went on for an hour about how the earth is actually flat, and come to find out he's only just trying to bend your mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
he really doesn't think the earth is flat, and he was just kept going with it like that these are all the reasons other people give, but he was saying it in a way like I actually believe this, but he didn't.
Okay,
He
so
just wanted to get a rise out of us.
And
Okay,
I
so
already know it's a yellow brick road, you know. And I'm sitting there, and Jamie, the thing about it is Jamie will literally go into it like, oh my goodness, I really can't believe that he really thinks that way. Lonnie, he really thinks that the earth is flat. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness.
so
Like,
let
it's 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm about to have a hemorrhage.
let let me let me help you look at this with a different perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so you got this young man. He's 15 years. Is he 15?
Yes.
15 years
Yes.
old. Jumping in the car. He's got the two people he lives with that are raising him. And Lonnie has to turn down the radio, roll his eyes, and huff because he's got to hear it again. What did you really just say to Tristan?
Good, sir. How are you? U.S. Yeah, what are you hauling today? Aluminum scrap.
Oh, I guess he's talking to somebody. I was like, man, he's taking a long time to answer this one.
He's going through the border. I think he said, "I'm from the U.S. calling aluminum scrap."
Got it. Got it.
So
Yeah,
he
Jamin,
probably
I'm not trying to pick on you either. I just want to make sure you guys are unified, because if you sit there and kind of chuckle with the kids because Lonnie doesn't understand he's trying to be serious, regardless of your intent behind that, in a serious moment, it's going to weaken him.
Yeah, and I really understand that, but like for him to get like upset because he's, turned down the radio and he's got to listen to Tris go on and on. I feel like, and I just giggle with Tris, and I just am like, it's fine. Like, you're just being a little too serious right now. But I know he probably does feel disrespected in those moments a little bit. Like, I just want to listen to the radio and have some quiet up in here. But we can do that for any time, for years and years and years.
Well, I'm going to ask him about it. We're gonna talk about that, because there's a underlying message here that I want to uncover. So when he gets back on here, I'll handle that. I'm not even talking about the car. I'm talking about in the living room when the kids are in there and they're laughing and giggling while he's trying to be serious. If you join in with them and laughing while he's trying to be serious, that's that's something to be discussed outside of their peripheral, because otherwise that makes it harder on Lonnie, who's trying
I totally agree. And I have taken so much ownership for the fact that me being like too protective of them when we first started dating, and just kind of not really being ready for that disciplinarian to come into that fatherhood role and stuff. I did put a wedge between them that I'm desperately working very hard at to make that go away. And I really respect and love him very much.
Yeah. So what I said is, just it's more of an emphatic reminder. Make sure you're unified with him and be really careful, because you guys are kind of in a topsy-turvy environment that's up and down, and you just don't want to do anything to provoke it to get worse. So, all right, Lonnie, are you back, buddy?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, he's in a little bit of a flaky area.
Yes.
Okay. So did you hear my question earlier, or do I need to re-ask it?
I didn't hear your question, no.
Okay, so you got the radio on, you guys are in the car, and I promise, I mean, this sounds like a small deal, but I want to uncover something here. You're in the car, you got your radio on, and here comes Tristan, going to tell you that the world's triangular. It's a parallelogram that turns into a sphere that turns back to flat, and he's got scientific proof that happens. So you turn down the radio, you huff, you roll your eyes, okay? Because it's annoying the crap out of you. What did you really just tell Tristan at that moment?
Can you hear us, honey? You there, man?
Lonnie, Bobani. There you go. You'll have to repeat the question for a third time.
I'm here.
Okay, you black
Can you
folks
hear
kill
us?
me. It's a black thing.
I can hear you. Can
It's
you
a
hear
black.
me?
Yes, it's a black
Yes.
thing. I wouldn't understand.
Oh my God.
Hey,
Did
just
you
trying
hear
to
the
have.
question, honey?
Video.
We'll give him a
Well,
second.
hear me.
Oh,
About
he's still up there.
60%. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
How about us?
Can you? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
hear you through the whole, except for
We only heard except for, and then you went away.
when it cut out. Being
Yeah, he's not in a good area. This is the most peace I've had all day.
that.
Can you hear us, honey?
I
Should we
heard
hang
that.
up and? Yeah.
I
You
heard
heard
that.
he said.
Yeah, I heard that.
You heard
Yeah.
what? It was too peaceful around here. Nobody was talking. You're hearing things again. It's that Canadian smoke, I'm telling you.
Probably.
I love messing with him.
Can you hear us good now, honey?
Can you hear me?
There you go.
All right. I did not hear the question part of it.
Okay. All right. So the question is that reaction that we just talked about. What did you just really tell Tristan with that reaction?
Probably with my reaction, because it's lately been the reaction.
Mhm.
That I just maybe that I don't have time to hear him.
Okay. So you
But
think that's what you told him?
Possibly. But
Okay.
my whole thing is this. In the morning when I first wake up, I'm who I am. They are who they are. You know, and I can't just wake up and just go into National Geographic and all that stuff. And Jamie knows when I wake up with around her, she immediately immediately is having a conversation with me, and I'm not even awake yet. I haven't even opened my eyes yet. I'm talking a full on conversation. And for me, it's the same thing with Hayden. It's just all it sounds like is static. Literally, it's as soon as I play a song, it's dead silent. As soon as I put a song on, Mimi, yes, Tristan,
Say so.
did you know that the ozone really can't have a hole in it because it's this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, so then I turn the radio down and I wait for him to finish what he's saying. I don't have any expression. Dead silence for about 3 minutes. I turn the radio back on. Mimi. And it just starts to feel like after 10 years that it's purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently, probably in the last 2 to 3 months, I've been like, and I just turn the radio completely off and I sit there and listen. Then I try to engage, but that doesn't work. So I just sit there and I'm quiet and I let them do what they got to do. And then after a while, when the static gets to be too loud for my brain, I go to sleep.
While you're
So
driving?
no, she's driving.
Oh.
So I'm literally like, I'm sorry, family, but at this moment, my medicine hasn't kicked in yet. I've got PTSD. I'm crazy too in ways. I just tune out. I have to, because
Okay.
I feel like my family is cuckoo the minute they first wake up. They are. Who in this world wakes up and decides to write a speech to address the country? Who does that?
Unfortunately for me, I used to be like that a whole lot, but that's kind of hilarious. I love you guys.
Well, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. It's nothing against Tristan. It's
Then,
nothing against
okay,
his age.
so what do
It's
you do
nothing
then?
against his inspiration in life and him knowing certain things that no one else in the world knows.
So how do we
And
handle it?
then, but let me finish real quick. Then it turns into, which is part of his ADHD, how superior he is at doing everything. Everything in the world he's superior at. And I get it, it's part of his ADHD, but that doesn't mean that I have to engage in it. It doesn't mean that I have to be part of that. I don't got to even be on the same railroad track. I could be in a train right next to his on his track and be on my track and stay in my lane and just close my eyes. Right? Can I do that? I mean, I don't tell him to shut up. I don't stop him. I don't do none of that. I do get a little discouraged when a good song is on and I'm just mentally getting into it, and then bam, me, me. And I mean, and that's a
Wow,
haunting voice for me anyway, because when we used to sleep at night, this kid would crawl on his belly down the stairs. I almost
that's
punched
true.
him in his face because he literally
That's true.
came to the edge of the bed and creeped up. And at first, the first so many years after I was out of the service, I was extremely edgy when I'm asleep. Okay. So for a person to come to the edge of the bed in the dark and he's pale white and come up and go, Mimi, I I said, Jamie, we got to switch sides of the bed because I'm gonna end up drilling him in the forehead in the middle of the night. Because
No.
he's a phantom, he's still a phantom ghost. Almost 7 foot tall and can walk around the house on the creakiest steps in America, and he can come up them and down them without you hearing him in the house. So I say that to be funny, but hearing him say Mimi at 15 years old, as soon as a song starts playing and didn't say a word before that, and it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I have not, my medication has not come up to full shelf level yet in my bloodstream. It's hard for me. So I tune out. That's all I want you guys to know. It's nothing against my family. You guys can have all the conversations about how to take over the world, Pinky in the brain, all you want to. I just can't be part of it that early in the
I
morning. I can't.
I understand that, honey. I just feel like, then you can't take personally the fact that you're not finding a way to connect because that's the way he's trying to connect with us,
There's many, but see, that's the thing. If it's something that you're able to do, if I'm unable to do it, it's an issue for you in our marriage, especially when it comes to the kid. Well, when it comes to the kids, when it comes to me and you, when it comes to me and Misty, if it's something that just does not coincide with what is either with that situation, it's a thing with me. It's my mental status. But with most things that were is like this between you and I, where you feel like I'm just not living up to my biblical role or I'm not doing things that I should be doing, it's because it's things that you're capable of having patience and hope with that I don't. I cannot be like you and go through the same things with your family members a bazillion times without setting a boundary. You can go without boundaries and tolerate it until you snap, like the situation with Hayden stealing money from you. Stole money from me as well. Never once got a consequence for it. Never once had to pay me back. He had a 6-month consequence for it, had to pay you back, and you were at your wits' end with him because he stole $1,000 from you. Okay, those are examples that I've given you that over time, everyone has a breaking point, including you. Me, mine just has to be after the billionth time. You, it could be 60 billion times, and you still are calm and cool and patient and can fall into the same trap again. Me, I'm not you. That doesn't mean that I'm not trying to work with my family, engage with my family, have a relationship with them. I just can't magically fix something that they're not willing to fix themselves if it's something on them. Totally separate from the Tristan situation. However, it still coincides with you feeling like I'm just not there's something wrong with me. No, there's not something wrong with me. There is, I just cannot live my life being treated that way. I can't. And you are able to do that. You have taken a beating from your family your whole life. Me, I drop my family like a bad habit when you cannot get through to them. You can't get them to understand, and they will constantly take advantage and abuse you. We are two different people. That doesn't mean that we don't want the same goal in the long run. That just means if you have more patience, that's cool. I'm not around, that's cool. But when it comes down to this needs to stop or this needs to get better, that's where you have to say, okay, well, we have to start making a change because, like I've said to you before, if I don't look good, we don't look good. You don't look good, we don't look good. You allow them to get in and leave a foothold for the devil to take over and cause havoc in our marriage, you're the weakest link. If I do that, I'm the weakest link. So we can't look at each other and find fault simply because I don't have infinite patience to allow people to do things to us that is not right, to take advantage of us. You know, I know we were talking about Tristan, but at the moment when you said, but I just don't feel like my husband is trying to do his part in working on the relationship and engage with the family and this and that. That's not true. I try every single approach. I try teaching them things. I try going outside and showing them something. I try getting them to do something for themselves. And anytime they put up a fuss, you're right there to their defense. And have been since the beginning. You know, something they need to know on their own. I tried to teach them with patience and understanding when they were little. All they had to do was say, can't you just do it for me? I don't want to do it. You were right there, right there. Leave them alone. They're little. That's, you know, that doesn't, I'm giving examples of me engaging and trying to do those things. But if they rebel, you're right there for them. And you feel like I'm magically not finding a way to connect. I can't connect to someone that doesn't want to be connected to. I can't. I cannot. Only thing I can do is step back and let you do it.
It sounds like to me Tristan wants to connect. Otherwise, he
He
wouldn't have said
does.
that about the communication thing. I have a question about this car ride though. How long is this ride?
Oh, sometimes it can be long because we have to do 50 billion things
Well, what's
the wrong way, or we get lost because my wife doesn't have a compass.
how long is the car ride?
A lot of times it's long. It's maybe close to an hour.
About an hour car ride every day. Have you ever talked to Tristan? Say, look, Tristan, can we save these conversations for later once my medication's kicked in and I'm not so on edge because I don't want to put off the wrong vibe?
I probably could.
I'm just trying to think of ways to solve that because
But I don't like to interrupt it and stop him because it's not that often. It's usually just on my day off.
yeah,
It's
well, you do it
because we
beforehand.
have the same days off. Yeah, true.
Well, just
I
that
can say it beforehand.
you can tell him at 6 o'clock PM on a Tuesday, hey, listen, I love your talks. I love your quirky sense of humor. I love your quirky intelligence levels. But for me in the mornings, it's really hard to listen and enjoy because my medication hasn't kicked in. Is there a way we can save these conversations for later in the day and not on the car ride? Would that be okay? I mean, what do you think? You know, type of thing. That way you're showing him respect, like you're interested in him, which to me is more valuable than a eye roll and a huff. And
Yeah,
that
I
way
can try that.
he feels valued. And then what you're telling him in an indirect way is I'm really interested, but just not in the mornings. That's too hard for me.
Yeah, I could do that.
And see how that works. Cause I get it. You know, there are times you're just not in the mood. I get it. I get it. But my concern was upon hearing, you know, the initial part of the story was when somebody huffs or eye rolls or whatever, you know, and I don't know, 10 years every single day. Yeah, that would be nerve wracking, but
Or when you're watching a movie, that's
yeah,
their discussion time. Neither one of us have ever seen the movie before, and they are Mimi, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think they think?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well,
I can't take that.
yeah, those reactions, in the car, I'm talking about the car specifically. It could make Tristan feel like, well, devalued. Even though he's 15, there's a subconscious thing that goes on too. And if he wants to connect with you, that could hurt that. And that's where I was actually going. I want to see your all's relationship strengthened every day, not weakened. So I would suggest to do what we just talked about. And when it comes to the movie thing, and I know this sounds elementary, but it's something that we miss a lot. And I know you guys do this. You've told, if I remember correctly, you told me you have, that you explain it beforehand and not in the middle of, like, our grandkids. I give them expectations. We're going to go to Dairy Queen. We're going to have an ice cream cone. You're going to behave, or blah, 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 blah. I know you guys have done it. And it usually works. Waiting till you get there and expecting them to know the rules without being told to them, I can't get mad at them for not knowing the rules and then going against the rules without them knowing it. Okay, guys, we're going to watch a movie. We've never seen this movie. I know it sounds silly, but these little steps work. Don't be talking. Figure it out. I'm figuring it out with you. Let's just watch the movie and enjoy a nice evening together. Whatever, however you want to come up with it. But basically, future proofing. That's a term that I think is a really cool term that I learned. Future proof. What do you think, Lonnie?
I think it's good as long as Jamie doesn't think that it's memory snubbing or putting out those moments that she enjoys the most.
Well, and that's the trick. But then, let's ask her, Jamie, how do you feel about what I said or that suggestion?
I get where first of all, I really appreciate that Lonnie is concerned with, not wanting to interfere with what I feel are important moments between me and Trist and all three of us. And, I know how much Lonnie wants to have a deep connection with the kids. I know how much it kind of hurts his feelings sometimes to be like sort of an outcast where he feels like, why do they feel comfortable talking to me in situations and not him? And what I heard about the examples that he was giving, or that you were giving, Lonnie, about like all the ways you've tried to connect, it's been more kind of like on your terms, and sometimes especially with teenagers, it's sort of like, remember how I was talking about that one time that I was like, so like, yes, that's so true. When the lady who specializes in talking to like teenagers, she said, when you have toddlers, you treat them like puppies. They're very excited. You're excited. The more excited you get, the more excited they get. And when you have teenagers, you treat them like cats. You let them approach you, because if you're too eager, they're not going to respond at all. They're going to be like, "Ooh, God," and just run away. That's so true. So I feel like it's just kind of like, it's hard for you to kind of read somebody else's cues and like how to connect with them on their own level and in a way where they're going to feel really engaged. I don't always enjoy all the things that Trist talks about with me. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely times where I'm just like, oh my goodness, we're talking about like, what would happen if gravity just stopped for like the 800th time in my life, or
yeah, that was one of the conversations one
That's
day.
hilarious.
Yeah,
and I almost threw up.
His mind is so, and he's very into talking about like how the mind works. He's just like I was at that age, where like psychology of the mind really fascinates him. So he just started with ADHD medicine. And John, I'm telling you, Tristan explains to us in detail what this medication does to his brain. I feel like
I think the doctor gave him shrooms.
I know, exactly.
I have a question for Lonnie. What happens if
Yeah.
you do throw up and there's no gravity?
It'll go right in my face.
Hey, I we're we're hitting 2.5 hours, and I want to start kind of winding down. I do want
Yeah,
to see my
I
wife,
have to go in a
but
couple minutes too.
yeah, but I want to leave something with you, Lonnie, and maybe this will help out some. And listen, dude, I remember picking up my son from his girlfriend's house, driving across town, and he was telling about a movie. I couldn't have cared less about that movie. I had no desire to hear about it. And for like 20 minutes straight, he gave every single detail to the point where I got tickled because I was like, how does he keep on talking about this? So it made me laugh. And you know what? It's a memory that I still remember because it was
Mhm.
so annoying that it became cherished. Well, I'm going to use my 10-year-old granddaughter. And this is not saying that you have to do this every time, not even saying that you're wrong, because I do know there's
I
a
don't think you're
point.
wrong either, just for the record, honey. I don't.
Yeah, there's a point where you do feel overwhelmed. It's like, okay, enough already. So I'm not saying you're wrong, not saying you're right. I'm just giving you food for thought that hopefully you guys
Mhm.
can come to a middle ground to where,
And
Tristan can
and
be.
I want you to know that I need that because I don't have children of my own, and children didn't come into my life on an everyday basis until
That's
such
right.
a late period.
That's
And
right.
because we don't have a close relationship and
That's
haven't
right.
from the very beginning, it's hard for all of us,
That's crossed my
not
Yeah.
just
mind
me.
today. Yep. That has crossed my mind throughout this session. I literally mean that. It's not like they're your biological kids and you've raised them since infantry and all of that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
here's what I want to tell you. And I want again just to kind of look at it from a different perspective. My 10-year-old granddaughter Aubrey played soccer. I missed 2 out of her 10 games. How much fun was it to sit there for an hour and a half in the cold weather? And I just sat there. Do you think that was
Right.
enjoyable? You know what happened? Tanya was like, "You're going to go to the games?" I said, "Yeah, I am." I canceled Marital Monkey Mondays for a month and a half to go to her games on Monday nights. And I said it just like this. I'm a blind man sitting at a soccer field at a soccer game that I cannot see. I said, but it's not about me. It's about Aubrey. She will never
Right.
forget Papa John sitting there blind at a soccer game he cannot see. And sometimes when you can adjust your mindset to it's not about me, it's about that young man, it's about that young lady, and it's not easy. It is not easy. All of a sudden, you become a servant versus annoyed. And annoyance is an absolute natural reaction, obviously. Jesus got annoyed with the disciples.
Right.
And there is a breaking point where you want to
Yeah,
go.
and I think with Jesus and the disciples, it's more like they always needed him.
Mhm.
Always,
And
like
they
these guys always need me to be there for them, but whenever I want them to be there for me or anything like that, it's not there. You know, it's not. So it that makes it hard too. It's like, for me to have people in my life and spend time with them and give them my all, but I don't get much from them
Oh
ever.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know what,
That
Lonnie?
makes it even
Feel
harder.
Okay. Well, let's
and
talk.
I can relate to that so much. Teenagers, being a parent to teenagers is a thankless job.
You got it.
Children in general, sometimes it is a
I've done it.
thankless. Oh my gosh, they just and then all of a
Right.
sudden
And
you're
you feel that a lot because they have been close to you
Mhm.
all this time.
And
For
if she's
me, it's
feeling
like
like
they
that, how
have been
about
like,
you?
ew, this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what?
They've
Let,
always felt that way.
let me jump
Except
in
for Tristan.
again. When you serve, it's
It
with
doesn't matter.
expectations of getting anything back. That's what servanthood is. And it's a thankless job. Parenting is a thankless job until the later years. Yet
Yeah,
it's your calling in this season. And this season will not
Mhm.
always be here. This season's going to close out at some point as far as raising them, leading them, teaching them. Now, in their adulthood, you want to get this relationship to a point to where when they're adults and they need advice, they can come to Lonnie. They can come to Jamie because the parent-child relationship never ends. Well, it does, but you understand what I'm saying. Well, think about Jesus.
Right.
Just think about him for a second. He's about to die, and one of his closest disciples turns on him 3 times in a row and denies him. So
Mhm.
Jesus feels it. He knows exactly what you're saying, probably to a deeper extent. So
Right.
if you want to be Christ-like, you also have
Exactly,
to
yeah.
you also have to come to grips with you're not always going to be thanked. You're going to be resisted. You're going to be rebelled against. You're going to be underappreciated. You're going to be looked over, and you keep serving. Love's in action.
Mhm.
That is not easy, but Jesus said it just like this. And we've come up with this quote in this session multiple times. Jesus said, I did not come to be served. I came to what?
Serve.
To serve.
serve.
So
Right.
that pleases the Father. So now you can go back to the spiritual aspect. What's going to please the Father through the scenario you're currently in,
Right.
right?
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying, and there has been periods of time where I've tried that so hard for so long, and it's not like I've given up. It's just that I think the most discouraging part for me is I don't think my wife in the moment shows me when I'm not upset and I'm not, whatever. So I feel like maybe she could show me more, not just talk about it when we're talking about it with you, more that she understands where I'm coming from and understands the fact that I came into this relationship, this marriage, and from the beginning have not been able to connect. These are the only 2 kids on the planet that I can't connect with,
Well, that's
no matter
natural.
what I've tried.
Yeah,
What's that?
that's kind of natural. You're in the same home.
Right. And I get that. I understand the whole parenting. If I was their father, I would be going through the same things at times.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, it's not like I need a pat on the back. It's not like I need, Jamie to just forget all about them and worry about my needs. It just I just feel like I wish there was a little more understanding of that. And I think in turn that would give her the ability to, like, be a little more encouraging, like in those times when situations happen, that she could just be like, hey, Hayden, this is this. And then later on say, hey, I wish you would have done this better this way or that way or
All
whatever.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I think we would understand each other more and get along more. And I wouldn't feel like I'm always like the one, the one that
So,
is doing something wrong, the one that is not finding a way, that is not, I'm always find myself in my wife's eyes to be needing to do more and do better.
okay. So
Always.
basically what you're saying, if I have you in the right element here, is that you're just looking for additional support to feel more like a team versus being isolated. And
Right.
Jamie, I heard earlier say something about, and I'm wish we we kind of jump all over the place, which is not normally the way we're supposed to do this, but we've been doing
I
this a
know.
while. And it does, and I'll be honest, it makes it a little tougher on me because there's so much I want to dig into, and then we get to another point, and I'm like, that's why I always tell couples, get specific with the topic, let's address it, let's kick it in the tail and be done with it. But I'm lenient with you guys because I know you guys have a lot going on. But Jamie mentioned the fact that she feels cut off a lot as well. So now I think this is something that we can give a double goal, a double assignment, And Jamie, you guys have to agree with this because this is your session. I'm just coaching you guys through this. Lonnie's wanting more support, maybe more verbal support outside of the kids, maybe more action support in the moment. Really quick, what's your response?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I will definitely do that.
okay. On the flip side, Lonnie, what about your assignment to be more understanding or more lenient and letting
Less apt to cut out Jamie off.
there
less
you
apt
go.
to stop
That's
her.
there you
Yeah,
go. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Those are your assignments individually. I'm assuming you're both behind the wheel and can't really look up a verse right now. Is that true?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm parked.
Are you part? Can you look up Galatians 5:15? I want you to take this verse and meditate on all week long. As a matter of fact, I'd like to see you guys talk about this verse in the morning before Lonnie's medicine kicks in. I'm kidding, Lonnie.
It'll probably happen.
I want as soon as Jamie wakes up, regardless of Lonnie's status, for Jamie to start talking about this verse immediately. Like in detail. No, I'm kidding. Sometime before you guys separate for the day, whatever time that be, if you can, talk about this verse. If you can't, do it as you're going to bed together. But this verse I think is powerful, and I want you guys to think about this and put it in the context of marriage. Do you have it, Jamie?
If you bite and devour each other, watch out or you will be destroyed by each other. Yeah, that
Exactly.
is deep.
So that's your weekly verse. Take it with you.
Thank
Discuss it
you.
every day.
Thank you. We need that on my part as well.
Okay. You guys are making me emotional. Stop it.
And I am
serious.
here to have lunch. Guess with who? Hayden's girlfriend's mama. So now, after that long, deep conversation with you guys, I'm going to go talk about marital sex of my teenager with
Yeah.
another mother. That's going to be so
Well,
awesome.
Lord Jesus bless her. Bless,
Yeah.
bless. I'm serious. I'm literally
Uh,
praying for
Yeah, I'm gonna be
blessings over
praying
that.
for you on
Yeah.
in
you.
that conversation that it goes well
So,
and that
honey.
each
Yeah.
one of you are perceived by each other in a good way because
okay.
it could go either way.
Okay.
It could. So I'll report
So,
back next about that, and we will dive into Galatians 5:15 this week, John. And we really appreciate you.
okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
you're
Tell
welcome. So
Tom
that,
Yes.
sorry
Thank
for
you.
taking you away. We know that was supposed to be cut off. So
that's
thank
all
you.
right. The more you keep me away from her, the happier she is. So Lonnie,
Highly doubt that.
so Lonnie's got the husband assignment, Jamie's got the wife assignment, and you have a unified assignment. So we good to go?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
We'll catch up
Thank
next week
you.
for sure. You're
All
welcome.
right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Have a
Bye,
great day.
John.
Bye, Lonnie.
You too. Bye, John.
Bye, Lonnie. Talk to y'all later.
John, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye, John.
I'm going to go sightseeing.